All right, well, we have a great panel here today. Chris, let's start with you since you kind of started the whole thing.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Karl Strauss Brewing Company started in 1989 with my business partner Matt and my relative, master brewer Karl Strauss. We opened up, we were the first new brewery to open up in the city of San Diego in more than 50 years. Since then, we've been growing continuously. We now have a major distributing brewery that we're sitting in here. We're ranked the 45th largest craft brewer in the United States, according to the Brewers Association this last year. And in addition to that, we have 8 high-volume brewery restaurants here in Southern California, with 2 more in development.
And every brewery has to have a location, a building. John Hamby, tell us about what you do.
We endeavor to find real estate deals for these breweries. We get calls every month, and the locations are getting fewer and fewer as the market fills up.
And of course, once you get the location and the idea, the recipe, then you got to have get some financing. So, Jonathan, tell us a little about what you do.
So I specialize in growth companies, namely. I've always had a passion for beer. So in the late 90s, we entered the market, albeit small back then as the industry was, but as it's gained traction, so have we, and we now finance quite a few of the kind of mid-size outfits here in town, and I'm passionate about beer, and helping them grow has been very, very gratifying for me.
Chris White, you play a unique role here in craft brewing in San Diego. Tell us about it.
I started White Labs here in San Diego in 1995, and we started to make yeast for home brewers and then commercial breweries, and now we focus most of our production on yeast for commercial breweries because they've grown so much, but we still make a significant amount of yeast for home brewers.
Now, starting a few years ago, and I don't remember exactly when, we started hearing about how the growth in the macro business had tapered off or was flat. And, you know, at the same time, we're hearing double-digit growth in the craft business. Is that still kind of the picture out there? What's happening?
Well, years ago, people thought if we get to 5%, you know, of the business, of your business, that would be great. And there's no way we could even get to 10 with the infrastructure needed and things. And that's surprising that you know, that we're well past that goal, you know, of 5%. And 10 years ago, I think we thought in the industry we're all doing pretty well. We're all growing businesses, but then the consumers really caught on with what we were doing, and led to the recent expansion.
Matt, tell us a little about Duckfoot and what you do.
We're here to represent the little guys today. So we just opened this year, 2015, and we are on track to brew our first 1,000 barrels this year. So.
Matt, you come at it from a little different perspective. What do you see as the trends on the national level that are impacting startup brewers?
There are a lot of home brewers that have the dream. You know, they see operations that are small, that have grown from small to mid-size, and everybody wants to be part of that. So myself included, you know, we made the plunge and started our own brewery with the dream of hopefully someday being the size of Karl Strauss.
Now, so how long has Duckfoot been in existence now?
We just celebrated our 8th month.
One of the things we talked about, Matt, before the panel was the difficulty in getting a handle in a location and then keeping it.
It's a challenge for sure. There are a lot of craft beer bars that are excited to take on the new guy. And so we'll have our opportunity to get on at a new restaurant or bar, and those business models now are set up to just turn those handles. And the hard part is that with the increase in breweries in San Diego, as that number goes up, you have to wait longer and longer to get your turn back on that handle. So it makes it challenging from a business perspective to do that kind of planning.
What you're seeing because of the rate of change in the industry and the number of new brewery entrants, that people are finding that it's pretty crowded here in this market. You think back to just 5 years ago in 2010 when Mike Hess opened. He was the 33rd brewery in San Diego. That means that 82 breweries have opened up since then, more than doubling. It's tripling the industry. And if you look across the state of California, there are now 600 breweries in California, and more than half of them didn't exist 3 years ago. So there is this tremendous pressure in local markets to get tap handles and to get space on shelves.
Let's go back to the financing for a minute. I know a little bit about financing this. Let's throw that out. You want to talk a little bit about that to start with, Jonathan?
Really, when it comes to the financing of it all, it is an insanely capital-intensive endeavor. It's food and beverage manufacturing, so if you wanted to open your doors and have a 30,000 barrel capacity, and we've actually started to see that, where that's their going in capacity, and you're talking about millions of dollars, $5, $6, $7 million that you have to spend before you even, start production.
And not only is the cost of getting in, substantial, but the baby is insatiable. As it grows, it just requires more and more capital. You need tens of thousands of dollars, and then you need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you need millions of dollars. And then you start talking about needing tens of millions of dollars to be able to get to the next level. And so it doesn't really matter how well you're doing in this business. You're always looking for more capital to be able to continue to your growth arc.
Well, John, let's go back and talk a little bit more about the real estate piece of this. Is San Diego running out of warehouse space at the moment for these breweries?
San Diego, in some cases, are running out of real estate. I mean, I get calls from other brokers all the time saying, we don't know what we're going to do next year. There's no space to sell or lease to anybody. And it's a joke. It's an industry joke, but at the same time, there's some truth in jest.
Is there a trend towards the craft brewers buying facilities? Talk about that a little bit.
I think everybody wants to own a piece of real estate that they can call their own for their business. So I think it's less brewery related and more business owner related. But oftentimes brewers are met. What I've found is that brewers are met with a clash between, we don't know who we're going to be when we grow up and how much space we're going to need, and we're dumping all of this money into somebody else's building. Right? And so it's the age-old argument of, I don't want to be paying somebody else's mortgage, and I also don't want to be retrofitting somebody else's building for the next 10 breweries that come through, coupled with we only need 4,000 feet right now, and if we grow the way we want to, we could need 20. And if we buy 4,000 feet, then we're stuck being landlords trying to either sell or lease out our vacant warehouse while we're still trying to grow, and we want to focus on our business. And so it's less about the want to own. I think it's fair to say that most people want to own their own property, and it's more to do with the business plan and the growth.
Let's talk about local and what that means.
I would say the definition of local has just changed dramatically and continues to change. Local meant we were from San Diego and really Southern California. Then, over time, local meant you're from North County versus, the city. And now local means my block, my little neighborhood, and that's what local is, because you're not as local as the guy who's on the corner that's closest to the consumer's home.
Isn't it fair to say that the consumer has also changed? I mean, you've got a different generation now that's being sold beer, right? And so they're looking for a completely different thing than when you started 27 years ago.
You're exactly right. When we started, no one had ever tried craft beer. We had to introduce people, and we had to teach people that it was actually safe to drink the craft beer. We had to teach them that it wasn't the dark beer on the bottom of the vat and the light beer on the top of the vat. Things that craft people don't even think about these days, but this was the reality back then. And now you have 21-year-olds coming of age who've always known craft beer. And it's such a different world, from our perspective.
Well, this has been fantastic. It's Friday afternoon, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to grab a beer. So thank you all very much.